During my college days, that is in engineering, many students were not understanding some of the subjects, and one of them prominently is control engineering.
Okay.
Very difficult for students to comprehend. Our teachers were somehow not able to probably explain. I was reading on my own and understanding. So they used to tell me that why don't you take a class for all of us? I used to conduct class for all 50 students.
I think education is a fundamental right, just like healthcare is. Do you feel we can do something about it, or are there initiatives being done to have more and more kids adopt public schools?
I think the psychology of the people has been continuously changing. During our times, maybe 40, 50 years ago, I'm sure no one was sending their children to those high-fi private schools. People's affordability has also increased, and therefore slowly the culture of sending children to the private schools has increased. We can certainly reverse it. It's very important, because ultimately some of them, maybe 30% of the people may be able to afford that kind of fees. Rest 70% people today also can't afford to send their children to such high fee private schools. Parents are somehow gravitating to not send their children, get right education in their only schools, but they don't depend on the schools. On the other hand, they depend on the coaching classes. This culture is also a disturbing culture.
Imagine standing before a beautifully carved wooden box. It glows with the stories of the past, whispers ideas of the future. And as we lift the lid, one idea at a time, the room begins to fill with possibility. Today, we open this Jadui Pitara.
Look for the silver lining whenever a cloud appears in the blue.
Hello and welcome to Between Us. Make every conversation count. You know, some conversations don't just inform, they shift our perspective. They linger long after we've had that conversation. And today's episode is one such. My guest is someone who spent decades not just teaching or administering, but reimagining what Indian education system can be. Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe sir, former chairman of the AICTE. He's the current chair of NAAC and National Education Technology Forum. He's a reformer, he's a visionary, and most importantly, a believer in the transformative power of curiosity. Today isn't just a policy discussion, it's a blueprint. And the episode is aptly titled Blueprints of Tomorrow, a conversation with Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe sir. This is a blueprint of what education was, what it is becoming, and what it must evolve into. So let's dive straight into the conversation. Thank you for coming on the show, sir.
Thank you, Santosh, for inviting me here.
Thank you, sir. So let's begin at the heart of it all, not with institutions and policies, but with your why. And that is, what has education meant to you personally, not as a career, but as a calling?
See, education is meant for total development of the individual in all its facets. Maybe someone will look at it from the employability perspective, someone from entrepreneurship ability perspective, someone wants to become an IAS officer, therefore education is required. But essentially, it is all-round development of an individual. There's already a lot of perfection in man, as what Swami Vivekananda had said. But bringing it out so that you blossom it, you hone it, is what education does. So education is for creating good citizens who will take care of the society in the future of the country, the planet, and all of that. That is what is education all about.
Were you, is this something which was always there? If I were to step back a little earlier than where you are today, your own schooling, college days, was it always a motivating factor to share knowledge, to probably pursue a career in education? Was it always there for
It was in a way developed gradually.
you? Mm-hmm.
Number one, there were inspiring teachers right from school days.
Mm-hmm.
I studied in an ordinary state public school, which is corporation school, which we call
Mm-hmm.
in the Indian language,
Mm-hmm.
not in English medium.
Mm-hmm.
But our teachers were highly motivating, inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
So some spot somewhere in the heart was there that I should also become a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not reflected truly in that sense. Gradually went to college, university, all of that. And during my college days, that is in engineering,
Mm-hmm.
many students were not understanding some of the subjects, and one of them prominently is control engineering.
Okay.
Very difficult for students to comprehend. Our teachers were somehow not able to probably explain. I was reading on my own and understanding. So they used to tell me that why don't you take a class for all of us?
Mm-hmm.
I used to conduct class for all 50 students in a privately, owned accommodation where there were chartered accountant classes used to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to ask that person who used to conduct the classes, please spare your hall for about 2 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to take classes. And that's where that spark was there. I can teach and people understand.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas our own teachers were not able to explain properly. So that was already there.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I had not taken it as a career. So when I went for a job after my master's in Tata Consulting Engineers, not TCS, TCE,
Mm-hmm.
I spent 1 year in Bangalore, Mumbai, and my calling was I should do PhD and become a teacher. Then it slowly fructified, and then I came for doing my PhD, went for teaching job in Arunachal Pradesh, in Northeast, and so on. So it continued.
You mentioned something because personally, I come from a family, my mother's side, family of academicians, and both my grandparents were teachers in public schools, which we call government schools. I somehow feel that we probably have not given enough impetus. I don't know whether it's in terms of resources or somehow when we say it's a public school, parents don't seem to be very excited about putting if you have enough resources, you would want to send your children to a private school. Is there something we can do to ensure that? Because I think education is a fundamental right, just like healthcare is. Do you feel we can do something about it, or are there initiatives being done to have more and more kids adopt public schools?
Now, I think the psychology of the people has been continuously changing.
Mm-hmm.
During our times, maybe 40, 50 years ago, I'm sure no one was sending their children to those high-fi private schools.
Mm.
Most of us studied, of course, we were from a very low middle class income family, almost very poor family. But even those who were well off,
Mm-hmm.
their children were also studying in our schools. So there was no culture of
Absolutely.
going to a private school.
Mm-hmm.
This only was done by some very elite, rich class of people, but not others.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow it has slipped for two reasons. One of them is the government schools are no more as good as they used to be. Teachers not as good and inspiring, motivating as they were in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, private institutions, because of their nature, there is always a talwar on the head. So teachers also behave better in those institutions because the fear of losing job, and facilities are better. People's affordability has also increased, and therefore slowly the culture of sending children to the private schools has increased.
Mm-hmm.
We can certainly reverse it. It's very important because ultimately some of them, maybe 30% of the people may be able to afford that kind of fees. Rest 70% people today also can't afford to send their children to such high fee private schools. So our entire focus in education should be the what we call school education.
Yes, sir.
Right from primary to the high school and higher secondary, whereby the Right to Education Act, RTE, in the right perspective should be implemented, providing funding, support, selection of good teachers. That is also very important. And then training them in a variety of aspects, pedagogical aspects. It is not formal, only D.Ed, B.Ed degrees, but how do we bring in true commitment, passion from amongst them? That is the most significant thing in the teacher training. If we do all of that, this trend can easily get reversed. Second part I would like to give as a corollary that today most of the children, they all go to a coaching class, some 8th standard, 9th standard, even earlier also. But majority of the children from 8th to 12th standard, because there are several competitive examinations that exist in India, maybe JEE, CUAT and many others. Parents are somehow gravitating to not send their children get right education in their only schools, but they don't depend on the schools. On the other hand, they depend on the coaching classes. This culture is also a disturbing culture. In our times, we never thought of going to a coaching class or a tuition class. In fact, if someone was going, people were belittling them. He doesn't understand anything in the classroom. Therefore, he is going for additional learning from the coaching class. Today, if someone doesn't go to a coaching class, many of the friends, relatives all make fun of these children, saying that he's so dull that probably even from the coaching class, he will not get anything. Therefore, they are not sending. Or he is not at all having any money power, therefore he is not being sent. But this is a very sad story actually. Yes. So our children should enjoy sports, cultural activities. Along with that, very happy manner, they should learn, joyful learning, which we call, in the school. And as a side, you may have some competitive exam training also from the school, no problem. But essentially, the entire curriculum, if it is done well, I don't think any coaching is required. You can easily pass your exams.
And the irony is that, sir, is that the teachers who are actually in the classroom are the same teachers who are actually conducting these private coaching outside. So, what makes them do it? You certainly have undertaken reforms now. If I were to ask you this question and take us back to the state of higher education, when you began the reforms, what was it at that point in time?
Yeah, there were a couple of things which were disturbing. When I joined as chairman of AICTE, of course, my earlier job of being in Arunachal Pradesh, IIT Guwahati, then as the director in College of Engineering, Pune, had taught me a lot of lessons. But when I came to AICTE as its chairman, every year there would be some survey from CII, NASSCOM, FICCI, stating that our education is very substandard, graduates are not employable, and that percentage varied between 15-20% to 25% at most. So what is happening to the rest 75-80% of the students? Why are we creating so many graduates and who are not useful? And that's where a lot of thinking started analyzing what are those challenges because of which this kind of statement is coming. Number one, many of the industries felt that what is taught in the universities and colleges in the curriculum is outdated. What is relevant in 20th century is being taught in the 21st century. How can they get employed?
Right.
Second, along with the curriculum, the entire process of teaching learning. Even where the curriculum is designed well, teaching learning is all theoretical. They hardly have any experiential learning. Maybe there are labs in courses like in science, physics, chemistry, biology, or in engineering or medicine, architecture. But most of them, except probably medicine is an exception, most of the other fields, and also to some extent architecture, rest of the domains of teaching learning processes are all theoretical in our universities and colleges. So students may be knowing the formula behind that, the theory behind that, but where is it applied? How is it applied? Why is it applied? Where is it going to be useful? Not only in your domain, but somewhere else. These are not at all taught in the colleges and universities. So second important thing, reform, which we started was to have what we call as internships. So made internships mandatory, that every student during their 3-year course or 4-year course. Some courses are even 2-year postgraduate courses, 4-year undergraduate courses in engineering, 5-year in architecture, extending it to BA, BCom, BSc, 3-year courses. They all do theoretical. So why can't they spend about 6 months in the industry, in this society? It may be even with small scale, medium scale industry. It can be with the startups. It can also be with an NGO. It can be also in the government departments like PWD or electricity board or any of these kind of municipal corporations or ministry itself. Why can't they go and see what is happening there and how we can apply whatever theoretical knowledge we have earned, gained to the real life problems. And this was second part of the important reform which was also undertaken. Third one was everyone was gravitating to only earn money. Money was a big consideration for everyone. In the first year, if you ask any newcomer, why did you come for engineering? There were only two answers. One answer is, I was least interested. My parents asked me to join, therefore I have joined. Or this is where a job is almost guaranteed and high paid jobs also available compared to if I go to an arts college or a science college. Therefore, to earn more money, big packages, I have come to engineering. But they never felt that by education, they can contribute back to the society, back to the people around us. How do you improve the lives of those people? That sensitization, that empathy was never there part of the curriculum at all.
Yes.
So we started with a very interesting and exciting program in the first 3 weeks of the college or university. We said there is a universal human values program, or we called it student induction program, but essentially it is universal human values program, wherein although there are no classes, all the students have come through a rigorous, mostly coaching culture. So burnt out. So first make them relaxed. No classes in the first 3 weeks.
Oh, that's
and
so
then
nice.
Get up early. Most of the students, when you ask, they said, we have seen sunset, but for a long time we have not seen the sunrise. So make them get up at 5:36 around the sunrise time, go to a playground, play games, physical games, not computer games. I used to refer to that, not on the screen, but actual real games. Sweat out, do yoga, meditation, come back, have breakfast, and then a lot of discussion sessions so that students open up. Some of them are scared of speaking in English. Let them speak in their mother tongue, maybe Malayalam, Marathi, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, whatever it is, so that they start expressing their inner feelings. And then sensitizing them that others are also equally important. Human to human relationships are important.
Very important.
How do you develop them? And how each one has to be empathetic to the other person. And one sense of realization which comes during these 3 weeks is a student coming from rural or urban area, rich family or poor family, English medium or local language medium student. Everyone has some speciality, some, what we call talent. Some talent is missing. So whatever I know, I can share with you, and then you share what you know with me. That sense of collaboration, sense of bonhomie, making friends, and not teasing for someone what he doesn't know. On the other hand, give a helping hand. That kind of a system started evolving in the process. And this is a very fantastic thing. Initially, people opposed. They said, first of all, the syllabus is so vast that completing it in one semester is difficult. Admissions delays are there. And if you spend 3 weeks on this, how do we cover the entire syllabus? I said, once you make this 3 weeks program, students will start learning on their own as well.
Right.
So your efforts will be reduced to a great extent. So this is another successful universal human values or student induction program. And for handling this, teachers needed to be trained. So we have 1 week teacher training program on universal human values. And nowhere in this program we say do's and don'ts. We only raise some issues and say, in this situation, how do you react? What do you do? So each one of them, through introspection, self, realization, will give an answer, and 90% of the answers are same.
Hmm.
Then we ask them, you all answered the same. Do you follow it in your life? Then there is hardly one or two hands raised. So that means you know something is right, but you are not following it.
Right.
Why don't you do it? So that way, gradually creating that mode of self-introspection, realization, many teachers at the end of that 1 week program literally were in tears. They said, we were teachers for about 15 years, 20 years. We never realized what is the role of a teacher.
Right.
What is the role of education. So now we are fully prepared. We will follow it. Later, some of them may have dropped out, but most teachers have continued to follow that kind of a system in their respective colleges and universities.
In fact, sir, as you were, I am a very visual learner, and as you were sharing these ideas, I realized one very important thing, maybe a little emotional thing, is that is why I feel that sense of purpose always comes in a public school environment more than because there it's all about competitiveness and competition, and I think this is something, and I wish these ideas can be now incorporated not just in colleges but also in schools across the board. I do have a follow-up question to you. In terms of legacies, when you were bringing about these reforms, were there any specific curricular, cultural, or structural legacies you had to challenge?
We had a lot of challenges. See, people are always having a mindset of no change. People are comfortable in their comfort zones and don't want to exert and try to do hard work over and above what they were doing earlier. So if you ask them that you have to design your own curriculum, that you have to put in a lot of hours of work, then if you have to do excellent teaching learning process in which you really interact with students, engage with them, you have to study much more than what you were studying off the classroom. Earlier, we used to probably prepare 1 hour, 2 hours for a given 1 hour class. Maybe you will have to prepare for 4 hours. And that too in an era of technology when internet is available at the doorsteps of every student. Most of the material which normally teachers teach in the class is known to them through YouTube, through platforms like MOOCs. So why will they get excited to come to the class and study the same thing? Secondly, many teachers still carry those old notes written in the paper, and the paper color, when it becomes slowly yellowish over the years, students know what he's going to teach is of the last couple of decades back. So why will they get excited? So we wanted to continuously train teachers in accepting the reality and then also be proactively technology friendly. And if you ask students to study something on the internet from some YouTube lectures or SWAYAM platform or any other MOOC platform, videos, etc., you have to watch it twice before coming and then think about questions which you should raise in the class where you will challenge the students in the classroom.
Just to ask you this, what was your first moment when you took charge where you said, no, this has to be different? What was that one moment? Was there a moment when you just took over and you realized, I need to bring about a change?
In a very fact that I have been pulled up from director of a college or a IIT professor to become head of a regulatory body, there is a big responsibility which I am going to shoulder. This was very clear from the day one. Otherwise, I shouldn't have accepted this position in the first place. Having accepted what all is happening in the world around, what people are talking about, technical education, industry is talking about, what is the expectation of the government, society. I think I had internalizing all of those issues, and those surveys really clicked. Students are not employable, was not acceptable to me. And therefore, then there are many other things which we did to prove the point that students are certainly very good, only we have not given them enough opportunities. And that is what I will sometime tell you about Smart India Hackathon. Why did we start that? And that is where employability of students can be improved by providing them challenging environment and support, both.
Right.
So some kind of mentorship is also required, no doubt. But they on their own can do many things. And this I had learned from my College of Engineering Pune days itself. Very classic example I just want to mention, very important. There was a student who wanted to be in an IIT, gave JE, concentrated on JE, but did not make it. But he landed up in College of Engineering Pune because he didn't do so well in the state entrance test. Where he was concentrating on JE, so his marks even in state entrance test were flunked actually. So he got only civil engineering department. Then he was very unhappy that even in at least COEP, if he had got electronics or computer science or mechanical, he would have been happy. But he got into civil. So he had that inkling in the mind that I missed the bus. So he went to IIT Bombay for internship. At the end of first year, he applied somewhere and he got it. When he was doing internship in IIT Bombay, on his own, we didn't help him. He was motivated to go there. He saw that IIT Bombay team was formed and they wanted to develop a satellite, student satellite, small satellite, what we call nano or pico satellite. Before that, two institutions had already launched the satellite. One is Anna University, and then some southern states together, they had one satellite launched by ISRO. And IIT Kanpur had launched a satellite called Jugnu. So there were already 2-3 satellites which were developed by students, thanks to their faculty connection with ISRO, that they were able to do it. IIT Bombay was still struggling. So this guy went there in internship, came back, first year guy, boldly he came to my room as I was director of the institute. At the end of the vacation, he said, our institute also should develop a student satellite and we should launch it. Imagine a student of first year civil engineering coming out like this with an idea. I did not discourage, but I gave him a challenge. Satellite is a multidisciplinary kind of a problem. There is mechanical required, metallurgy required, electronics required, computer on board is required. All of these disciplines, in a way, chemical, all of that is involved. Civil is the least one in that. So if you really want to develop, you have to build a team of about 15 to 20 students. And then from all disciplines and all years also, because your first year students hardly have any knowledge. So some second year guys, third year guys. If you do this, then I will do out of the way and do support it. 15 days later, he came with a team of 20 people with first year to fourth year students. Imagine first year guy talking to second year guys. We all know what kind of systems are there in some places. There is ragging of second year, first year students by second. He went to them and requested them. I don't know what all he did, but he got a team of 20 people from all disciplines. Then the journey started. Then finance, etc. There were other issues, but this was highly motivating. He is Mr. Baviskar, who then went to US for his master's, PhD. But this system was evolved as a transfer of baton from one batch to other batch. It took 7-8 years for actual satellite to get built, tested, and ISRO appreciated as one of its kind in the whole country. Earlier, 3 satellites which were developed, I will tell you, they had only used the ISRO facility for launch. Thereafter, they never even tracked the satellite which they have launched for the purpose for which they had launched. Our students in advance created a tracking center with antenna and tracked their satellites and gave that data to ISRO. They said this is a real prepared institute and therefore very noble to support this institute. So we had then good interaction with ISRO.
This is a very valid point you raised, sir. They create a project. The project is done and then it's kept on the sidelines. So here, when you actually implement it, it also encourages the next generation of students who are coming in that we can create more. I want to ask one more question around this, the time when you took the reforms. Were there something you noticed in student behaviors when you look them today and when you started off, their behaviors and aspiration, when you looked at that, where you said, change is absolutely needed. From a student's perspective, did you feel that?
Yeah, absolutely. See, all students and their parents, when they send students with paying such high fee,
Mm.
there is always expectation and also aspiration. If these are not met, they will feel somewhere, all disgruntling will happen.
Yeah.
In any college and university, when people raise alarm, students do strike, etc., it is not the fault of the students. Somewhere system has not given them the right due. So how do we do it? And one of them was that Universal Human Values Program.
Yes.
That made them developing that ownership with the institute. When the feeling of this is my institute comes, then minor problems, they get dissolved. You don't even refer to them anywhere. In fact, many students will solve those problems.
Correct.
Very classic examples are there of water leakage in the washrooms, or when the water is not there, or sometimes some wall is, having some seepage. Students will start repairing by their own, without asking the authorities that you are not doing this and not doing that. Because their sense of belongingness has emerged from all of them. That is one part. Second part is, again I repeated, when teachers are not taking classes with full excitement, with a lot of interaction with them. I again give this example that in our times, in our schools, there were always 40, 50 students in a classroom. And even in the college, there used to be 60, 70, sometimes 100 large classes. But teachers used to know names of almost at least 50, 60% of them. First name. Some of the teachers even knew about the family backgrounds.
Yes.
Today, you ask any teacher in a college, school still probably there is a big change might have happened, but still school teachers know much better about their students, their families, because of parent-teachers meeting which happen regularly. But when you come to college and university, you are different, I am different. I go to the blackboard, or I will take a overhead projector and slides or PowerPoint presentation, and hardly look at students and talk to them. So maybe a couple of students who answer to my questions, I know their names, and some students who throw that, what is rocket? I know, get up, what is your name? So, 5, 6 students. Rest 60 students are not just known to a teacher. So if this is to be changed, you must have formal as well as informal interactions outside the classroom. Invite them to your chamber, chat with them, have a cup of tea with them. I think that is where they will open up. Otherwise, they are not opening up.
And I think this holds true even today, sir, when you look at the entrepreneurship model. Even with entrepreneurs, founders of companies, executive heads of organizations, how they interact with their people. Because, there was a very powerful speech, and normally I do not bring political leaders, but there was a very powerful speech by President Obama when he took office. He was addressing entrepreneurs and large industry houses. And he said that one of the things, while I appreciate all the work you have done, you should also understand that no organization is complete without its people and how you take care. And he had taken a direct parallel to how you teach your kids in school and colleges and when they emerge out. We are in the midst of one of the most significant overhauls in the Indian education system, which is the NEP 2020. I think it's about digital integration, but more so the way I look at it, I think it's also about dismantling some of the academic silos we have today. If I were to if you were to identify 3 most meaningful or radical shifts in higher education, what would they be?
I'm again repeating that curriculum development or curriculum revision has to happen at very regular times, which is not happening in colleges and universities. Slowly, some are doing it, and that is very significant and important step.
Could you share a little bit more about the curriculum?
See, what is happening is some curriculum was designed some time ago, maybe a decade ago, 2 decades ago. We keep teaching the same thing. And then how does student get excited about it? No. He sees many new changes which are happening every day on the WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And then there is nothing being taught at all in the classroom. Secondly, in the domain of experiential knowledge,
Mhm.
which industry is often talking about, whether it is in terms of not just the knowing of the practical aspect of the theory which they have learned, but also communication skills,
Huh.
life skills, leadership qualities, team building and teamwork. If this is not part of the curriculum in an informal way, students will not be excited about it. This is another second aspect of that. Third aspect, when we come to the subject of innovation, if we deal with that, innovation comes only when we are free to think something out of the box. And our entire education system, right from KG to PG, I'm not talking about PhD because there you have to do some original work and submit a thesis. Right from KG to PG, our questions are all based on rote learning. I'm not against memorizing certain things, but all the questions are either explain this phenomenon, derive this formula, but where is the application? How do you apply it in practice? If such questions are not asked, and if some child, right in the school days, instead of A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, which we all study in our nursery books and all that, write something else different from that, many teachers will say this is not the correct answer. They want textbook, what we say in cricket, textbook shot. So like that, they want textbook answer and not the genuine out-of-the-box innovative answer. So unless our teachers change their attitude for students to write something different on their own, in their own words, value it, innovation will not come through. So in terms of what we call Bloom's taxonomy, there are 6 levels. One is right from remembering to understanding to then applications, then creativity, novelty, and all of that, which both left brain and right brain together have to perform. If such questions are not asked, students will only by heart the content of the textbook or the notes given by the teacher and omit it in the examination, get high marks. But when you ask, where do you apply, how do you apply, they are blank. And that is where even examination reforms are very, very important. So these 3 are absolutely very important reforms which were undertaken part of the AICTE's reforms policy. But national education policy, which you referred, talks about all of these things. Holistic, multidisciplinary education, rooted in Indian values, Indian knowledge system.
Yes, I'll come to that, sir. But let me talk about faculty. How do you see the role of educators evolve? So, for example, the reason why I'm asking you this, you did mention that the curriculum needs to be updated. Therefore, the role of educators also need to evolve. And I know that if I were to look at it from the NAP perspective and the reforms you're trying to bring in, how do you think the role of educators must evolve?
The educators have to be sensitized to all these aspects which I have been talking about so far. And this can only happen through some kind of formal training which is required to be given to them.
Do we have to dismantle the current B.Ed, M.Ed kind of education system and make it probably more holistic and more modern, more grounded?
That is already part of the NEP policy, that instead of the after graduation teachers means would-be teachers coming for doing B.Ed, D.Ed. Now it is called 4-year integrated program. ITEP, Integrated Teacher Training Program.
Okay. This is after your high school? Or
after our 12th grade, we normally go for BA in arts or BSc in science, whatever, physics.
So instead of that, they can go for this?
They can do that with this one.
Oh, okay.
So now the 4-year program of ITEP is like BA, B.Ed, BSc, B.Ed, BCom, B.Ed.
Okay.
It is integrated.
Depending on the stream you choose. And
it is your choice.
Yeah.
Even otherwise, anyone who were coming for doing B.Ed earlier would have done their graduation either as arts graduate in economics, in philosophy, in psychology, or in physics or chemistry or mathematics or biology, or in BCom commerce or some management, and then they come for B.Ed training. So they were already having some subject knowledge already existing, and now you come to B.Ed for pedagogical aspects. And then you also undertake training in some school to really deliver it. All of that is happening in that 2-year B.Ed program. Now, if you are in a 4-year integrated program, right from inception, all variety of things which I talked about, whether it is curriculum revision, how do you interact with students in the classroom, how do you set right kind of question papers, how do you evaluate students, along with studying either physics or maths or chemistry, whichever topic or subject you are choosing. You are going in depth in one particular subject. And then you can become a teacher of maths, you can become a teacher of social studies, you can become a teacher of economics. But you are grounded in the subject as well as in the pedagogy aspect.
That's just amazing. What do you think institutions should do to support this shift of educators' training? How do you think the institutions should align themselves?
There are two types of institutions which we discussed right from beginning, private and the government.
Yeah.
As far as government institutes are concerned, all state governments should understand this entire philosophy and try to support, help through the mechanisms that the government has in terms of both funding, regulations and all of that. Where it comes to private, since they have to depend on fees as one of the major elements for their expenditure, that's why fees are always higher in private schools. They have to pay the salary, they have to maintain the buildings, etc. And therefore, they neglect very important part of teacher training or continuous improvement of the teachers. I think they should also pay more emphasis on this. Only then their college or university will get better quality students, and admissions will also be full. But they will always see the USP. All parents who are deciding on their children will look for not just the infrastructure, but the quality of teaching learning.
Yes.
Quality of ambience that is there. How teachers are, developing relationships with students in terms of engaging with them, helping them out, mentoring them. Because today mentoring is becoming more important.
Yes.
Than actually dealing with the classes. So which college or university does that well? Naturally, parents and students get attracted to that institution. That's what is the focus.
Do you feel that, as you rightly said, that the private institutions' focus is, they charge higher fees because of the infrastructure and other things. But there are certain basic minimum criteria they have to follow, right, sir? Across the board, whether it is a private or a public government college. And I'm just purely asking this from a perspective that can we not ensure that the faculty development programs and that they have to go through this? I mean, isn't it something which can be a prerequisite for every institution? Can that not be done?
No, I will step back a bit, and because otherwise my statement may be misconstrued. So,
Sure.
When I said private institutes normally charge higher fees, that is because to maintain the minimum standards which you are now referring to,
okay,
it has linkage with that. If you have to have a ratio of faculty to student as envisaged or as regulated by regulatory bodies, maybe UGC, maybe AICTE, you require 1:20, 1:25. For every 25 students, one faculty in the UGC means arts, commerce, science. When it comes to engineering or architecture, pharmacy, it is 1:20. When it comes to medicine, even lower. So whether private or government, they have to maintain that student-faculty ratio. Again, the faculty are in 3 different levels: assistant professor, associate professor, and professor. There is a ratio which is given as 1:2:6. 1 professor, 2 associate professors, to 6 assistant professors. Salary of associate is higher, professor is much higher. So if you have to pay the salary, get good quality faculty, naturally you have to raise it through only 2 ways. One is the tuition fee, other is philanthropy.
Right.
So in our country, the education is not commercial, supposed to be commercial, although some of them may be doing it, but our whole philosophical or civilizational roots say that education is to be given free.
Yes.
That's why we use the word Vidya Danam. Dana means we donate.
Yes, absolutely.
I will not charge for that.
Hmm.
Even in the ancient times when there was Gurukula system,
Yes.
Guru Dakshina was never demanded in the beginning. It was only after the student graduates, then Guru Dakshina was asked for.
Yes.
Not before. Now we charge the fee in advance, whether we give that what they need or not, but we are charging the fee.
Huh.
Secondly, that was absolutely optional what you want to give.
Huh.
It's not necessary that rich may have given more money, others would have given less money. It doesn't matter. Teacher was never dependent on that.
Huh.
Whatever comes, he was satisfied, happy. I think that culture has to again evolve. Government is giving us, or private institution is also giving us good amount of salary today to the faculty compared to what it used to be about 30 years ago. So we should be totally satisfied with what we are earning.
Yes.
Why are we doing damaging things in the academic activities? This is one part of the story. The second part, you said that minimum norms,
Yes.
which come through regulations. For running an engineering college, you require so much of land, so much of built area, so many classrooms, so many laboratories, so many tutorial rooms, sports facilities, cultural activity facilities, a canteen or a common room. These are all defined. So before a college starts, whether all of this is there or not is checked before giving approval to start an institution.
Okay.
Same is the case in the case of arts, commerce, science colleges. It is not done by UGC directly, but based on certain standard norms, the universities to which the colleges are affiliated, university look at all of these facilities are in place, then give the approval. So in terms of infrastructure, in terms of number of faculty, it is already ensured that everything is minimum benchmark is satisfied.
Right.
But the second part of that is how is it used? What are the processes being followed?
Yes, sir.
Are they robust enough? Are the outcomes as per the desire of the institution in terms of its vision, mission, goal? Are they satisfying them? Are they producing the right kind of graduates? This all comes through a different phenomenon called as a process of accreditation. So we have two accrediting bodies in India, NAAC, which is National Assessment and Accreditation Council, which is based in Bangalore, as an offshoot of created by UGC in 1994. In the same year, 1994, AICTE created National Board of Accreditation, which does program accreditation. NBA is for program accreditation, programs of engineering, mechanical, civil, electrical, electronics, or pharmacy, architecture, or any one of those professional programs. And NAAC does holistically the entire institutional accreditation. It may have 10 departments, 25 programs. All of them are seen together as one entity and the accreditation is done. This is where many facets of the actual processes, the outcomes, the impact that the institution is creating on the society is tested. And therefore, that is voluntary. Even today, it is voluntary. But the second part, teacher education, whether they are continuously developed or not, whether they are given support or not, in terms of providing support for research, for higher education, some of them may have to be sent for maybe 2 months training, sometimes even 1 year training to learn some of the latest things which are happening in the industry and come back. For that organization, be it government or be it the private organization which is managed by a trust, society or a Section 8 company, they are to be sensitized. The leadership there, the management leadership, your input in terms of only infrastructure is not good enough. Your teachers have to be highly inspired, motivated all through. If I don't get promotion from assistant to associate professor, I will always be feeling sad about it and may not perform as good as I should have been. So on one side, support system for training, other side, even providing them what we call incentivization or promotions. They're all important for a human being. Although we say that teachers have to be very noble and all of that, ultimately they have a family, they have children, they have to take care of their education. So you can't keep them away. And so managements have to be also sensitized. So some workshops for management also required. So we ask managements also to attend that universal human values program. 1 week teachers which they undergo. We say bring your not only yourself but your families, so that your relationships at home will be improved. What we need to do is understood by the entire family, and also the management is part of the family.
Right.
Because they should also understand that they have to take care of such nuances better. Only then our teachers will perform or outperform rather.
Right. Let's talk. We did talk about this before we started the podcast, but now for our audience, let's talk about the Smart India Hackathon. This isn't, to me, and based on our earlier discussion, a government event. I think it's become now like a cultural movement, as far as I know. First, if you could share, how did the idea originate, and how do you see this reshaping the way students become problem solvers?
As I said, students by nature are problem solvers, but they are not given opportunity. I repeatedly say this statement. And so Smart India Hackathon was one such platform through which students started thinking about solving problems of the government departments, ministries, small and medium scale industries, startups, large companies and corporations. All variety of problems now today are solved by the young students who are not even graduates. On one side, our industry used to say even graduates are not employable. Now those who are in the second year, third year also are solving the problems which they have not solved for years together. So the genesis started with a small incident in Pune, where I was Director of College of Engineering Pune. One of my then friends, of course, from Persistent Systems, Abhay Jere, who happens to be now currently the Vice Chairman of AICTE, came to me and said that we want to hold this Pune level hackathon. Less was known to anyone in India, including me, about what hackathons are all about. Then after he explained, we said we should go. Our Corporation of Pune helped, and also some industries, and then some institutions. And many problems which are the day-to-day problems or challenges which citizens face in terms of water shortage. I'll tell you a very interesting phenomenon. Water is not in shortage in Pune. One of the cities where water is available in plenty. Per capita water requirement per day, it is having capacity 2 times, 3 times what is the minimum requirement. But still in some areas and colonies, water doesn't go. The reason is you have a constant size of the pipe which is going. And as you go, there is a friction, and also due to the long length of that resistance which will come. So at the fag end of that pipeline, the water, what we call force, is much less, and hardly you will be able to fill some buckets. Whereas someone who is nearer will have much access to water. So this is a common challenge in many places. In high-rise buildings, there are other problems. We assume that the overhead tank is at the top floor, that means 10th floor or 15th floor. But the water availability in the immediate next floor, if it is a 10-story building, 9th and 8th floor will be much less. Although it is closest to the water source. And the ground floor, first floor, because of gravity, gets flush with water. And the 9th floor, 8th floor are starved of water. This is a small problem. Similarly, the what we call hygiene-related issues of the waste collection, disposal of that, which we talk today about sustainability, no plastic, etc. But these are challenges each city is facing today. Then in terms of sewage treatment and sewage itself. Even today, there are manual scavengers who are using and then get into the pipeline. Many times we hear the death of these people. So these are all challenges which exist today also in the 21st century. So why can't we give this as problem statement? Let us see what students think about them and how do they get innovative solutions. So that was the first successful small-scale hackathon which happened. And meanwhile, this was in the transition period when I was about to get selected and came here in AICTE as the chairman. So that experience was just at the background. When I came here, the person who had introduced me to this hackathon was Abhay Jere, which I said earlier. He came to Delhi and said that we had a plan of scaling it from one city to multiple cities and then the state level and the national level. Now that you are in the center, why couldn't we have a national level hackathon directly instead of a state level hackathon? So we went to the minister, we convinced, and then we rolled out first hackathon. And then onwards, non-stop, every year, we are holding this hackathon, which has become the world's largest innovation model. And every year, whenever it is held for 36-hour long duration, after the first 12 hours are over, Prime Minister personally comes online, interacts with at least 6 to 7 centers, asking about what problems they are solving, how do they innovate, can it be done some other way? He asks questions. And then it's highly inspirational and motivational that a Prime Minister comes at night, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, talks to the children. So this is a very exciting moment for all of them. So the number of entries which were coming, which were about 10,000, became 50,000, 1 lakh. So it became unwieldy. And that's how we started that at institute level, people should hold the hackathon on the same problem statements which we have released and select some of the best entries and then transfer them to the national level. So that's how a innovation or hackathon culture has percolated down to every institute, every university, every state. And that is the moment, So this
That is the moment. So we spoke about the national level hackathon. And my question to you is, do you see a spirit of entrepreneurship fitting into this system? And can this be seeded early on? And do you think it needs to be taught or it needs to be lived?
No, both are important. Certainly it has to be lived, no doubt about it. But sometimes some part of that is to be taught as well. So for example, when we talk about hackathon, Smart India Hackathon itself, several startups have emerged from out of those teams which participated. Some might have won the prizes, some may not. But even those who did not win have entered into the journey of entrepreneurship, creating their own startups. The reason is following. We had thrown them some challenging problem statements. So the very idea of giving a problem statement without giving any solution of any sorts is that the mind starts thinking.
Correct.
So, iska kya uttar ho sakta hai? And there are multiple possible solutions. So, which one I have to choose? So, I will start doing optimization. तो ये करने से इसमें ये risk है, इसमें ये risk है, इसमें that way you start thinking about it. And then you have to build a team. You cannot solve such problems alone. So, our rule was you have a team of 6 people, of which not all from the same discipline. And at least 1 girl student out of those 6 people. That means gender diversity also has to be involved. Well, there is a different thinking pattern in the female gender, which men forget about it. So you bring that element also into it. And then multidisciplinary. So someone from computer science, mechanical, civil, etc. Architecture, even law if you want. Bring in anyone from your institute and then create a team. So that was first part. So team making, selection of team members. That is what we do in the corporate life. You select people, human beings. And then what traits they should have so that they gel with each other and create a holistic and working team. And then you require a leader, so leadership qualities. Then there are 3 types of communication. I always talk about 4, but here I'm talking about 3 communication skills. One is the writing skills. So whatever problem statement is given, they have to write the solution in a manner that the person on the other side who is evaluating understands what you are trying to do. And then give you those weightages and then you get shortlisted. If you write in a clumsy manner, the other person will not understand anything. So this communication skill of writing. And then when you are actually participating, when you are selected, the jury will move around and that time you have to orally also explain.
Correct.
So this one is written skill. The next one is now what we call as the speaking skills, which are also equally important. The third skill is listening skills. Because what question is being asked by the jury, even before understanding or before he has completed, sometimes we start answering. That is a poor thing, actually. So you give enough opportunity for the jury or whoever it is on the other side. So if you are asking me a question and I interrupt and start answering, your thought has been halfway through, and I'm giving answer which is probably not the right answer. So listening skills. So these are also developed in the process. Then you have to use the latest, some kind of technology which will solve that problem. And then maybe part of that software, part of that hardware, and then you have to test it so that it works. That means quality assurance part of it. So you look at the entire cycle, starting from an idea to owning that idea, actually solving the problem by multiple ways, and then closing in on one more suitable one, and then all variety of communication skills. That is what you have to do when you want to funding from the angel investors, 1 minute pitch.
Yes.
So your communication skills come in handy, teamwork. All of that is ingrained in that. So it is a natural corollary that most of these guys who came for Hackathon thought of starting an enterprise or a startup. So all of this training can be given right from first year in the colleges and universities.
Absolutely.
If that is done, India has a very bright future.
Absolutely.
When you are talking about entrepreneurship and startups, about 10 years ago, we had only 400 registered startups in India. Today, the number is 1,70,000. Where is 400? Where is 1,70,000? They have not come from only IITs or IIC or some NITs, but from tier 2, tier 3 cities, very remote areas, Nagaland, Odisha, Jammu Kashmir, Himachal, Chhattisgarh. Startups are emerging.
Yes. I always had this question to you, and I just want to take this opportunity to ask you. I understand that when we talk about IITs or IIMs from a management perspective, or the REC colleges, they're considered premium for whatever criteria they are. And I believe now more and more institutions are coming under the purview of IIMs, and more IITs are falling in. Do you see, although I see with the new NAP coming in, it'll no longer be about these brands, but I think it'll be more about how you're building a student, how you're building an entrepreneur. Do you agree to that? In moving away from the whole culture, I mean, I bring back my example of when I was living and working in the US. There was people rushed to these so-called Ivy Leagues. But that doesn't mean that the other universities are not equally good. Do you see, and I think somewhere there seemed to be that classist mindset of, I'm coming for a premium institution. So do you think the NAP is able to bridge that and maybe focus more on the concept of holistic education rather than which university you're coming from?
Yeah, you are right. That's being tried, attempted and happening, but still not so much as what we want. Still all said and done, this brand of IITs, NITs plays out when it comes to recruitment by multinational companies or even national companies. Some edge is there still with them, partly because they have used both land and infrastructure, a lot of funding from the government. So even if the actual inputs to the student may not be as high as what we expect from out of IITs, the very fact that such beautiful infrastructure, bright minds live together, they're all residential campuses.
Yes.
Learning is great when you are together, rather than when in these tier 2, tier 3 colleges, unfortunately, they don't have hostel facilities of the same level as that these IITs have, and therefore they are all day scholars. They come in the morning when the classes start at 8, 9 o'clock. Hardly there is a gap of 1 hour in between at most. And by 5:36, they all go back to their homes. So that ecosystem of staying together, living together, discussing together is still higher in all residential type of universities and colleges. And mostly these are all in the, what I say, your Ivy League equivalent of IITs and NITs. So they have that natural advantage. But nevertheless, despite all these odds, the kind of environment that the tier 2, tier 3 colleges have of late created has really been catapulting. And rightly said, it is not the paper degrees which are important today. The skill sets are more important. In fact, many companies today say, whether you know this software, whether you know Python, whether you know PHP, whether you know following AI-based some tools, etc., then immaterial whether you have a degree from this institute or that institute.
Yes.
That is what is becoming important.
That to me, sir, is the real change, because I think what you just mentioned makes a huge difference. Let's go back to teacher transformation and institutional empowerment. How do we, and I know, and I'm bringing up something very important, because the Indian knowledge system, an important ingredient, if I may say, in the NEP. How can we integrate IKS into teacher training, not just as content, but as a lens to approach learning, innovation, and sustainability?
See, when we talk about IKS, or in our own language, Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, there is a difference between the manner in which the West looks at all the facets of life and what Indian thought has been. There is a subtler difference. Today, there are a huge number of, especially science and technology, very advanced equipment which are available. They are tools,
right?
Whether it is hardware in terms of, say, radio telescope or microscope, electron microscope, transmission electron. There are versions of that.
Yeah.
Spectrophotometers of varieties. So you can analyze many things using those equipment. Way back about 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 years ago, there were no equipment. But nevertheless, with close observation, many of the scientific discoveries that our ancestors made are mind-boggling. So there must be a different way of learning, different way of doing research, which we are deprived of today. Can we bring back that? Can we still first understand what was that? We are not even aware how was it done. What we call different munis and rishis, they are nothing but scientists of those era.
Absolutely.
They meditated on one side, understood something from within, both physiology of the human being to the macrocosm and microcosm. So what we today call nano microscience, or the mega, which is universe. We talk about Big Bang theory and all that. So pralaya and development of the universe, there were thoughts which were expressed and which are just mind-boggling. We talk about in science, in physics, Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Existence, not existence. This is nothing but our Advaita philosophies. And also in terms of the undivisibility of the atom, which we once were talking about, Anu, Paramanu, these words were existing from that time onwards. So that means they had some intrinsic way of learning through some observations, both internal and external. Say the knowledge of the various planets, stars, galaxies was also known to them. There were no telescopes at that time.
True.
So by naked eye, maybe they were watching the sky, the movement, and whatever little they understood, they must be transferring back to the next generation, and then conclusions must have been drawn purely based on observations, but drawing conclusions based on consistency of that. And that is the science, probably the manner in which they must have done. That's why whether it is lunar eclipse, solar eclipse prediction, which happens through the Panchangas, and what happens today in the modern world through the tools which are available, exactly match.
Correct.
So that is one part. Secondly, the biggest of the grahas, that is the Jupiter, which we in our language, हम उसको गुरु कहते हैं जी. और उसी से गुरुत्वाकर्षण है. We all know that gravity depends on the mass of that particular planet. So the gravitational force is different in Earth, different in Moon, different in Mars, and different in Saturn and different in Guru. Which is highest? Naturally Guru, because that is the largest planet. So it is the one which attracts more forcefully. That's why Gurutva Karshan word has come. So I think all this knowledge is nothing but scientific. Who says that is superstitious? Maybe they have given a spin to that so that people adopt it and practice it. Once in 12 years, this Kumbh Mela happens. The Jupiter takes exactly 12 years to revolve around the sun. It comes to the same place exactly 12 years later, and that's how Kumbh is going to happen. And there must be some effect of gravity of Guru on that particular place, etc. So these things, some of them are to be gone deeper into it, do research, and then find out. There are other sciences in Indian knowledge system, whether it is physics, where the atom and Kanada had demonstrated, or in terms of chemistry. We all know mathematicians. We all talk about zero being invented by India, and how important it is in the digital, technologies, whether it is binary or anywhere else.
And Arthashastra.
Arthashastra, then psychology also, philosophy also, then language and the grammar. The most advanced language grammar is that of Panini in Sanskrit. Then also Ayurveda. You name construction technology, the temples we start for more than 1,000 years, despite all variety of nature's fury in terms of storms, in terms of floods, in terms of earthquakes. Nothing has been touched. It remains intact. So there must be huge knowledge base in terms of construction technology, materials technology, chemistry, mathematics, biology. All of this goes to prove that there was a different way of learning or understanding and research, which is called as Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. During several years of, onslaughts which our nation faced from 7th century onwards till now, till even after independence, there are various elements across the globe who try to subdue us. We have been rising. So Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, its importance, not just as being proud of that or that pride which is important, but how it can be made significantly contributory to the present day requirements.
Right.
And that is where Bharatiya Gyan Parampara is a continuous flow. Knowledge can never stop. Even today, even in the modern science, what Newton said was disproved by Einstein, and someone else will come forward and does something else. So our knowledge is based on whatever at that point in time we know. So we always say science is for determining the truth, and we are asymptotically moving towards the truth. We have not reached the truth. The truth, even in terms of neuroscience, how brain functions. Today also scientists are not having complete answer to that. So our Indian knowledge system had that question answer to ourselves, to the Shishyas, and then try to find out the answer and then move ahead. And that Jnana Parampara has to be again reinvented in a different format. We need not go into the jungle and sit below the tree and then start doing Gurukula, but in a different format, how teacher-student interaction can happen, how all those what we had achieved has to be taught not just as a separate subject, but in every subject. The starting point could be what was there in the past and how did we move forward. It is like history of that particular subject.
Right.
And then connect them with the present day structure. And what developments, thanks to the science produced by the West, whether it is in Europe or UK or even America and Canada or today Japan and many other countries have given to us, has also to be learned. And how do we connect the two and make it holistic?
Right.
All the more when we talk about holistic nature or sustainability, sustainable development goals of the United Nations, we have to come to Indian roots. There is no choice. People may agree, disagree today, but some slowly they are agreeing. And that is why our yoga has become very popular across the globe. Meditation for keeping the mind cool, for peaceful coexistence. All of these is so significant and important from Indian knowledge systems or Bharatiya Gyan Parampara has to be brought in the schools right from childhood, and then slowly go ahead to higher education and connect it with the modern science so that it creates really useful tools for the human society for its survival on this planet. So far, we know only this planet exists, but in our mythology, there are other lokas other than Prithvi Loka. And today, even science is thinking that there may be life elsewhere.
Yeah, Mars and...
We don't know. No, Mars may not be there, but somewhere in some other galaxy, there could be a similar environment, similar solar system, not necessarily exactly the same way, but some other that is being invigorated and inspected and then thought about, which we had also thought about. So I think the way and manner in which we study the subject is certainly different in that domain and now. So we need to amalgamate the two. We should not be only thinking about the past, but the present and the future also has to be looked from that lens as far as Indian knowledge systems is concerned.
You know, when we look at any system, process or life itself, it may not be perfect, but it can be perfected. I think that's the way I look at it. Do you feel that we spoke about bringing in IKS into the whole NEP process? Is there enough research going on now in terms of how can we integrate that into the modern education, especially in terms of technology?
There are two aspects. Number one, we have been talking about not necessarily in so many words, Indian knowledge system or Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, in some way that our ancestors had done much better science for about 10,000 years. And the elements of that are visible. For example, the standing iron pillar, which does not rest for several hundreds of years, right here in Delhi, or many other structures are a ample proof that the knowledge had several leaps and bounds that it had done. Even Damascus sword, non-rusting sword, which is very powerful, which was used later by many other nations. All this was done here, metallurgy in terms of that, zinc melting. And there are umpteen examples. But we were only studying it as some kind of a, subject which is beyond the curriculum. Once in a while, some teacher will say some book was there. But it was not integrated whole. And that is what was actually necessary. We were talking informally. But after even 75 years of independence, we never brought it into the curriculum in the manner it was required. NEP talks about all of this, rooted in Indian values and all that. But much before that, very interesting thing happened for the birth of this IKS division of the Ministry of Education in AICTE. I remember the dates very vividly. It was the 12th March 2020. Just before pandemic blew up. It was already there. Pandemic came. That's why the virus is called COVID-19. It started end December.
Yes.
But 20 March, it was already spreading across different nations and continents. But on the 12th March, still Parliament was functioning as usual. Had gone there for a star question for which minister required sometimes some help. So some regulatory agencies, these people are called, I was there. And one of the MPs, young MPs from Bangalore, Tejasvi Surya, he had some problem about some engineering college in Bangalore, which he wanted to discuss. I had given him time in the afternoon to come to AICTE office. And that day when I went there, as usual, sometimes it happens that the question hour was cancelled because of some ruckus. So I was there, but I was free. So then I just decided to call MP because if he has to come all the way there, since I'm here, if we can discuss here itself. So he agreed. Then we met in the minister's room. Minister was not there. We sat. We discussed that problem. That was resolved. Then we were just casually, same way discussing, why our syllabus does not have our Indian knowledge system, the pride of our, all the achievements that are there. Meanwhile, minister came in. He said, what are you discussing? You said this. They said that was 12th of March. he immediately told that we must have this kind of a thing in the ministry. Why don't you arrange a meeting on within few days? So on 18th March, we had a full day meeting of all the directors of many IITs, vice chancellors, very knowledgeable people in the field of arts, field of craft, music, dance, science, technology, all of them in the ministry. Since pandemic had already broke, some were afraid to come all the way to Delhi. Some came online. 50 people came physically. So a meeting of 100 people, whole day deliberations. And we said, what is to be done? We must have a division of Indian knowledge system in the ministry. That was resolved. 12th to 18th, 6 days. Within 6 days, we got 100 people to come forward, all interested in this subject. And then 18th to 24th, another 6 days. We announced that starting of the Indian Knowledge System division in AICTE. Of course, there was no funding, so AICTE put in its own internal revenue generation resources in the beginning. Subsequently, we had a formal arrangement. By October, we had a full-fledged division came in. But NEP came on 29th July 2020. So all this happened in March. 12th March, 18th March, 24th March. In those 12 days, it was seeded, which became part of the NEP in 29th July 2020. October, a formal division was established with manpower there, with people coming from different IITs, universities, being part of this today. We have spread it. You are asking about what all things are being done in 16 different subjects. There are different variety of programs, starting from conducting seminars, webinars, etc. on one side, giving funding for research proposals in those 16 areas, student internships in IKS, like in Guru Parampara, some students willing to go to an expert, either to a university, college, learn that, and then write a paper or a small report about their learning on this subject. So there is a big churning action happening in terms of Indian knowledge system. And there are several variety of programs which have been conducted, which has catapulted the awareness so much so that today there are several books which are coming on the Indian knowledge system, all modern books. One of them we started was in AICTE. We said Indian knowledge system as a subject. Even before NEP, I'm telling again, that there must be a subject called Indian knowledge systems. Not a probably credit course, but as an audit course where grades are not counted towards your marks or CGPA, but still mandatory. But we observed that for that curriculum, there was no single book. In India, there are thousands of books on Indian knowledge system in all the fields. But if you have to cover from art, culture, craft, music, dance, drama, science, engineering, philosophy, I think you require one single holistic book as a textbook. Otherwise, it will not work. So we gave this task to Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, Professor Mahadevan, who is a very well-known professor who runs a course on Bhagavad Gita and management for years together. And one of the most popular courses. He, along with two other authors, wrote this book for us. This became a standard textbook. He's also created a MOOC course on same Indian knowledge system. And many more MOOC courses are in the pipeline by many others also, including him. So, knowledge being available, collecting all of that, converting it into proper textbook and video lectures, and then dissemination, popularization is all activity which is going on.
It's interesting you brought up the name of Professor Mahadevan, because I was thinking, and when we were discussing IKS, me and my team were sitting and we said that another person we should definitely have to have conversation on between us is Professor Mahadevan, to talk about. This was more in context of Bhagavad Gita and management, because I think
that's the course he runs actually. Was running.
But apart from IKS being a subject, sir, I think the Aadhaar of IKS are we now looking at that as the Aadhaar of our Shiksha, the entire Shiksha Pranali? Meaning, we are not doing away with what is there, but taking the core values, as you rightly said, from predicting when the next Mahakumbh could be to, many things. Even for that matter, our Jyotish Vidya is also, the Vedic astrology is also very scientifically driven. So, do you think that the core, the Adharshila of our education should be based or can be based on the Bharatiya parampara?
या राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति में भारतीय विचार को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए दो चीजें, एक तो हमारे जो मूल्य है, I will repeat again in English also because some of the audience may not understand what I am speaking in Hindi, but nevertheless, whatever world is today facing and talking about, climate change, sustainability, and those SDG goals.
Yes.
If you look at all of these things, which world, United Nations, entire world discusses and talks about, has all its roots in our Indian wisdom.
Yes.
When we say the sustainability, the basic sustainability comes from mutual recognition of each other, respect for each other,
Yes.
and then giving credence to all of that.
Absolutely.
We may call in new modern world empathy, sympathy, all whatever words you use. But whether it is towards fellow human beings, that's why we do pranama, namaste to each one when we greet each other.
Yes.
That is our respect to the other individual. Second, our philosophy of sarve janaha sukhino bhavantu. This jana is not merely human beings. Jana is certainly many times interpreted as people, but it is beyond people.
Yes.
Beyond Homo sapiens, the human beings.
Yes.
All animals. That's why in all our prayers, we see almost all variety of animals.
Yeah.
They are the vahana of some god or the other.
Yes.
Right from animals like rat to the pigeon to Garuda to Nandiji, you name it, and you have snakes also.
Yes.
So they are all lovable to the gods. That means to the human beings.
Yes.
The cycle of nature depends on interdependence of all of this.
Correct.
If you lose one, there is a problem. So because there are too many rats, we may bring in a cat. But when rats vanish, there is a lot of kichad which is there, which will be cleaned by those rats, will vanish. And when there are more rats, snakes will eat some of them. So I think there is a balance which is there in the nature, which we should understand. Not just the animal world, but the plant or what we call botanical world. We respect that also, whether it is plant of tulsi, whether it is banyan tree, not only a neem tree, name it, they have all either medicinal value or they give maximum oxygen to us and take care of our health in some way or the other. So we respect those kind of things. That's why when we talk about deforestation, etc., I think we are the one who have greatest respect for forests.
Absolutely.
Not just forests. These are all still living because plants have a life is proved by Bose. That time people laughed. They have feelings, we said. Life to dikhta hai, they grow. But they also have feelings.
Absolutely.
Today, Japanese scientists proved that and they get Nobel Prize. They get Nobel Prize for intermittent fasting. And we have been following fasting for ages. Someone will do Ekadashi, someone will do Somvar, someone will do Guruvar, Shanivar, whatever day. So weekly once we do fasting, which is nothing but intermittent fasting. Half day we don't eat or something. This is proven fact for ages. Today in the modern world, through some medical terminology, you depict it and do studies and you get a Nobel. So I think we must be proud of all our activities. Some of that we don't have answers, so let us investigate them.
Yes.
We should not simply claim something based on hypothesis. But we should also conduct experiments like what modern science does and then promote it, say that this is what was there in India and this is the reasoning, this is how scientifically it can be proved. using modern tools and equipment, and then claim that honor to us. Many times we are losing that, no? So that is why. But I was saying, these are all having life and feelings. I think even inanimate objects, so-called, rivers and mountains, Mother Earth, we said.
Yeah.
This is all being now talked about by United Nations.
Absolutely.
So I think how much deep our Indian knowledge system is, I think is understandable through all these variety of shlokas where we respect all of this kind of entire planet Earth. So let us respect our Indian knowledge system, investigate, prove it to the world that we had ancient wisdom, which is reflected and also applicable to this day.
Absolutely, sir. Our research system, the output is definitely growing, but I think the global visibility is still lagging. What do you think are the barriers, and how can we strengthen faculty training in ethical, high-quality research and publishing?
The most important part is the other one, ethical. I simply sometimes lament that some of the papers, when they are plagiarized and brought up, or they are withdrawn after some time, that is a sad story. That is happening across the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying that it's only in India. Chinese papers are also withdrawn. There is plagiarism there in US, in many other advanced countries. This is all because of the rat race for promotions, higher positions, and higher money and all of that.
Is it also lack of oversight, sir?
No oversight. Much less oversight. There could be oversight. I'm not saying some of them may be due to oversight as well. For example, Marconi developed radio and all that, or Bose also had done the same research simultaneously, not knowing that other is doing. That time there was no internet, no connectivity. But today, it is not so much coincidence that we have access to information all across. So if someone claims that I have done simultaneously, there is slightly, it's doubtful. So plagiarism is a worst offense which an academician should do. We should avoid, severely penalize for not doing. Let other countries are doing, therefore we will also do is not an answer. We have to show the moral compass to the entire world. That is our philosophy. That is our ethos. And if we are moving away from that, I think no one will judge us correctly, actually. And therefore, this is a very important part of it. Secondly, you said the number of publications have been increasing. Certainly, we were somewhere in the 10th position to slowly came to 5th position. In some areas, we are 3rd in the world. But our publication quality is still 2nd, 3rd, 4th quartile, not in the top 25% of the journals. There are papers, no doubt, but large number of them are in the lower half of the research publications, quality-wise. Less in the higher quarter. That is where we have to put emphasis now. No plagiarism, high-quality research. These two are very important. For that, some support system from both government agencies, private enterprises, CSR funds, all of that is required.
And that's happening, right, sir?
It's happening. But still, compared to some of those nations who are ahead of us, we are much lower in numbers in terms of funding. So we may have to enhance it. And not all should come from the government. Some part should come from the industry. They will indirectly get benefits out of that.
But there's also that thing, sir, that when industry is putting it in the pie, they're more focused towards how their industry will grow rather than a holistic growth.
Some of them may be doing both. I don't care. If finally they have to also survive more profit and then put in more money into research, they may be interested in some research which is highly application oriented, which will spin off a lot of money for them. That's fine. But at the same time, they should also support basic fundamental research, understand nature, understand science. And the spin-off sometimes comes 10 years down the line, 25 years down the line. The very fact that today we are all enjoying high internet bandwidth thanks to fiber optic connectivity, this research was done 50 years ago. Yes. Today its fruits are visible in the last 10 years. So something fundamental may spin off later. So industry should have that patience. Government certainly has patience because it puts in without expecting much from out of that. But government also today has expectations.
Yeah.
Well, what
I
are you
think it's
doing to the society?
Yes.
Is the society benefited in the process?
Yeah.
Is your neighborhood having a better quality of life? Otherwise, your research is futile. This is how everyone is thinking. So, therefore, both fundamental and application-oriented research, both philanthropy and government support are required, and they are already happening in large measure. The very fact that Anusandhan National Research Foundation with a huge budget, which is provided as per NEP 2020, is catapulting that.
I think it's going to be a game changer. Sir.
It's already a game changer.
Yeah.
It's already started. Within 1 year, it is showing the results. So maybe 10 years down the line, we will reach the zenith.
I wanted to ask a question earlier than that, but I'm glad I asked the research first. Do you think this can probably help, going back to faculty, that we will be probably now able to create more thinking teachers than information providers?
Yes. This is, but not just, required. It is the necessity for survival of those teachers.
True.
If they don't, they will be waylaid.
So
therefore, they have to become thinking. There is special caps. Thinking cap they have to wear.
Yeah. I do have a question for you, sir. And this is when it comes to leadership, because I think if we have to build leaders of tomorrow, and as you rightly said, the students embody probably all the values, and if provided the right opportunity. Because for myself, even in Between Us, I work, whether it's my associate producer, the team I work with, they're all in their early 20s. And when I brainstorm with my associate producer, some of the ideas which come out from them, they are real problem solvers of today. But I think the one thing which is probably, which needs to be embedded, which was not when I was growing up, is the act of service. Leadership is a lot to do with service. Do you feel that that is something which needs to be, I would even go to the point of saying hammered into our training models, into the teachers, the students?
Yeah, absolutely. See, service is most important because it brings in certain elements in our own life which will go a long way in your success.
Yes.
People don't realize. By doing that service to the surrounding, maybe going to a village or to a slum, to a underprivileged child or a physically challenged, whom we call today Divyang, kind of support we do, you will start internalizing some of those issues, which will go a long way in your life in terms of whether you do a job, whether you become an entrepreneur, whether you become a government servant. They will all help you in multifold ways. So service is important. That's why our program of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, that every college is asked to adopt at least 5 villages. It is not that you do some hard, what we call Shramadan. Shramadan also you may do. I have no problem about it. But more than Shramadan, where you understand the value of labor. Shramadan is also important because you understand the value of labor. Some of the children who have come from well-off families, they have never dug a soil. They have never planted a tree. They have never done some of these things or cleaned the toilet. So that Shramadan will give you all those issues where people are doing that kind of tasks. So we should respect them is one thing which will come out in that. Second thing is, we have been learning so many subjects in our college, in engineering, in pharmacy, in medicine, in law. How I can relate it with the life of those people in those villages, and how can we bring in transformation, change, whereby their income is increased, their hygiene and health is improved, their agricultural productivity is increased. Can we not contribute? And that is what is also a service of a different kind. So both these are equally important, and there is a lot of emphasis on this, which is happening. Earlier, one question we asked about the faculty.
Yes.
faculty training in all of this is important. Because they themselves, when they educated, when they did their bachelor's, master's, never went through this channel.
Absolutely.
So when they don't know what to do, how can they make our younger generation to do that?
In fact, this is I think one of the most highlighted aspect of the NEP is the inclusivity of teachers, students, and also parents.
Yeah.
Because I think our home is our first school.
Yeah.
There is a lot of talk about mental health in especially it took a pandemic of this size for us to realize that how important mental health is. There has been, and now from what I could gather from our conversation, things are changing, that students have stopped asking questions. There is definitely a need to revive curiosity and the culture of inquiry, both among students and teachers. Are we moving towards that, sir?
Slowly, but not satisfactory. There's a long way to go. Because, as I said, examination reforms a while ago. Unless we open up and ask such questions where inquisitiveness automatically comes out. Many times in my own life, I have seen in the examination, even though it is rote learning based, that time and even today, continuing most of the time, out of 10 questions, you answer any 6 questions. So you're already choice of removing 4 topics, don't even learn, and still you can get away, not just pass, but good marks as well. This is a challenge actually. And even those answers which I have not been able to do, our 4 questions we have left out, how many students really go back to the drawing board and say, this I had not learned, so I need to learn. And if the nature of questions are such that it creates inquisitiveness by the very nature, so I think we have done the task. So that is very important from the reforms point of view in terms of examinations. But as far as the general innovation is concerned, supporting all of this requires a different mindset. And that mindset of the teachers has to be changed. Mindset of the management has to be changed.
And even parents for that matter, sir.
Parents also. Parents from a different perspective, that they are pushing their children into areas where they are not interested. I could not become a doctor, so my daughter has to become a doctor. She is not interested in medicine. And if she sees the blood, she gets fainting. And still you put her into medical school. So this is not the way it should be. You should give full freedom, autonomy to the children. This has to be understood by the parents. And you refer to the family as the first school. In fact, I go backwards, say mother is the first teacher.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in our whatever Mahabharata, we have stories where the child, when the child was inside the womb, learned how to decipher going into the Chakravihar.
Yeah.
You know that story?
Yes. And
so it seems modern science has now realized that from 3rd month onwards of the pregnancy, child starts learning from the mother's womb.
Right.
From there onwards, the first words that the child listens when the child is born, the language, which is mother tongue. I am repeating mother tongue as very important, because what you learn in your mother tongue is not by any force by anyone.
Yeah.
You learn it in the most natural way.
Absolutely.
Your mother is speaking something to the child, some song she plays when the child is to be put to sleep, and then father-mother conversation, brother-sister conversation, grandparent conversation, you are listening and you make sense out of that. And then you start speaking later. So that is a natural language.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any effort to learn that.
True.
But when you come to the school, suddenly you put you in another language.
Yeah.
You were in a Malayalam family, a Malayali family like yours, or mine, Marathi or Kannada family. We went to school. So if I are put in English medium, I don't understand half of that, what is being taught there.
In fact, I want to share this experience with you, sir. My father, who moved from Kerala to West Bengal, to Calcutta, at the age of 16.
Bangla bolchi na?
He learned Bengali by looking at the akshars on double-decker buses.
Correct.
That's how he learned it.
Yeah. So that is why if we are able to learn from the childhood in our mother tongue, then you can learn many other languages.
Yes.
First 3-4 languages you can learn very easily, effortlessly in the age group of 3 to 10. Even 10 languages one can learn very effortlessly. At our age, learning a new language is a challenge because of two things. We are already burdened by so much of things and therefore we can't. Secondly, we are scared and afraid of talking in that language because we may commit mistake. What the other person is going to think about it. Children are not bothered,
True.
Even if I use a wrong word, someone will correct.
True.
I don't
True.
have to be afraid of that.
In fact, you actually went into you answered this, which was supposed to be my next question. So thank you for that.
Question paper out nahi hua tha.
I'm so happy you said that. Sir, are we doing enough to integrate three things? Emotional literacy, empathy, and self-awareness into our curriculum so that we are not just creating professionals but humans.
Yeah, may I go back to the same Universal Human Values program? Not just one course in the beginning for 3 weeks is one part. Subsequently, multiple courses of that nature are designed, which will take care of all these issues. Sensitization, empathy on one side, too, knowing about history and geography of the local place, also integrating our knowledge with the society, what you called as service. These are all part of those programs which are part of this, which carry credits also now. When we started this, it was not credit.
Yeah.
Where people have to understand, subject themselves to this, its importance have to be realized, then you make it compulsory.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there are reactions. Why are you doing this? I came here to study this. I will give you another example, which is not related with this one, but still very important. First time ever in India, in that College of Engineering, Pune, we introduced a subject of biology for all engineering students. There was hue and cry. Some of them said, we stopped learning biology at the 10th standard. In our 11th and 12th grade, we took only physics, chemistry, maths, and computers programming.
Yeah.
We have stopped studying. You are again making us to learn. We came here to study mechanical engineering, computer science, electronics, and why this biology here? Then we had to innovate. So we said we will call this course as living machines instead of calling biology.
Right.
And then we adopted some of our own alumni who had gone to US, starting from civil engineering to agricultural engineering to water resource management to in agricultural botany to finally biotechnology. He was a professor. Now he has gone into industry and own startup, but he was a faculty professor in biosciences department, starting his career as civil engineer. It all moved like this and went into that. I said, you are the right man. You are our alumnus. We are starting this course in biology, which we have called now as living machines.
Right.
So how do we teach this? So we created very excellent lot of slides, presentations, videos. He picked up all of that. And being in US, he used to conduct the class in the our morning and his night. He was sparing every week 2 days to teach this course in the first semester. And some teachers whom we had employed were actually biology, botany, zoology teachers for this course. They were also at a loss. How do we teach this subject? So that guy really helped. And then it is flowing. And interestingly, some of the very interesting Microsoft challenges, our students could, get the first prize in biocomputing areas because of nature-inspired innovations which we could do.
Nature-inspired innovations. Okay.
So that's how biology plays a very significant role in law, in medicine, in engineering, in psychology. You talked about counseling and related services. Is very, very important subject which each one of us should have minimum understanding at least.
So a very important aspect, which I think in some villages probably still there, especially in the is community learning, right? So can we use community learning because you spoke about mentorship, can we use community learning in bringing mentors, professionals, artisans to reintroduce storytelling skills, and collective knowledge into education.
Absolutely, you are on the dot.
Hmm.
This profession, which is followed by people, whether with education, without education. Some of them are laymen who have not even gone to college and university, but they have practiced it. So we call them professors of practice. And if you get them onto the educational institutions, some of them have graduate, postgraduate degrees, not necessarily the PhD degree, which normally college, university desires to have on their faculty, but they have rich experience. I am giving some random example. You know, one Patnaik who does that sand animation.
Yes.
Is it not a great art? He
Absolutely.
may not have any education, doesn't matter. If he comes to the class, how inspiring that fellow would be.
True.
So that is one aspect. Similarly, there are people who practice local herbs, etc., and give medicine, and they are all curable. They don't have any scientific background knowledge. It is our responsibility, after learning from that, to investigate, do modern all variety of experimentation, and prove that it works, and create that application for the society. So I think we can bring in all variety of people, sportsmen, people from defense. You know, if a Paramveer Chakra person comes to your classroom, how motivating
Absolutely,
it
sir.
would be.
Absolutely.
Not just Paramveer Chakra, many others.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy in the last 10 years, the kind of people who are selected for Padma Shri, they are absolutely grounded. Someone working for forest, someone working for education. Absolutely those who have themselves not got high quality education, but they are contributing. They are being recognized. And if such people go to the classroom, I think it's an inspiring moment. They tell their stories. Each one of their stories is going to be a different story altogether. A great learning lesson for our students.
And we did mention about mother tongue. Are we especially regional state boards, they struggle because of English medium colleges as they move from their high school. Are we addressing this gap through multilingual content and support systems?
Yeah, we have been doing it. Number one, we need textbooks, reference books in all these languages. So we took it as a mission to translate all the subjects, courses that are done in engineering into 12 Indian languages to start with. Now our attempt is going to be 22 languages, which are constitutionally, statutorily recognized languages, but at least 12 major languages. All 4 southern languages, Malayalam, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, then Marathi, Gujarati, then Punjabi, Odia, Bengali, Assamese. These are major languages with large population. So can we give engineering education in that language? The first challenge is books are in English. Even though you teach in that language, how do we do our revision before examination? You all revise the syllabus. No? You learn it, relearn it, and then go and write the exam. So we needed books. So we started physical manual translation. It was taking a lot of time. So we have developed a AI-based translation tool called Anuvadini. And this can translate any book in any of these languages into any other language effortlessly. But there is some accuracy problem. It may not be 100% accurate. It can be 80-85% accuracy level. Remaining 10-15%, we will have to get in human beings, vetting. All of that is to be done. Some effort is required later. But we have now been able to provide engineering textbooks in all the languages. So this is one empowerment. The second part is, the other more serious part beyond this is also students who study in the regional languages in the respective states have 2 concerns. One of them, which I have referred earlier also, is when they come to the college, everything is in English. They know Malayalam or Marathi or Kannada, but suddenly you have to speak and learn everything in English is a cultural, linguistic shock. So to overcome that, they need further support in terms of translation tools and all of that. This is one technology part. Secondly, such children who are mostly in the rural areas, small towns, their incomes are also low. They can't afford to come to a city and pay those high fees of the college. Not only the fees, there may be a scholarship. Many poor children, EWS, SC, ST, OBC do get scholarship. But still, you will have to spend on hostel or some paying guest accommodation, on food, on travel within the city, and when you go home. This is not affordable to a large population.
Yeah.
And therefore, how does technology enable them to study many courses right at their home through the use of internet and the courses being delivered at their doorsteps, provided they just have a connectivity and a small device. And the data in India is the cheapest in the whole world.
Yes.
No country can be compared to India. That is how our UPI is running in remote places. That is how we are able to showcase our digital transactions, digital BDM, Aadhaar, vaccination certificates, everything was digital. So no country in the world has proved that use of technology can be so effective as India has done.
Do you also feel, sir, that when it comes to vocational education, that those who specialize in that probably perform better when it comes to higher education? And do you feel, just as a follow-up question, do you feel that we can bring them to mainstream?
Yeah. That is what is part of the NEP. In fact, in some form, it was available earlier also, but not as much as through the NEP. So there is one framework which we have created called National Credit Framework.
Okay.
And it has all levels. Level 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, right up to PhD, which is level 8. So depending on whether you are in a formal education, you have level 4. But you are in vocational mode, you have a different level 4. And if there is a interest in the mind of the candidate to move from vocational field to a general field, which we call general education, BA, BSc, BCom, BE, BTech, B Pharma, B Architecture, from vocational stream, there is a horizontal mobility.
Okay.
And there is a vertical mobility. Both are possible in this framework. Also, someone who has stopped education after 8th standard, but working in field, working in a garage, working in a factory, but earned a lot of knowledge, which is experiential, which is practical knowledge. Can we test and have credits for prior learning?
Achha.
Before, and then if they are equivalent to 10th standard, they must have some language capability, no doubt, either their own mother tongue or English or Hindi or something, or Tamil. And then they can be brought into normal general mainstream. And then they can do BA, BSc, BCom, BE, everything possible. This framework is what is absolutely empowering for anyone. Wonderful. Similarly, someone else who has come to a normal stream, like doing BA, BSc, finds that, my interest is not in learning these theoretical subjects, but I'm good at working by hand and wants to go into vocational stream. He is also welcome, or she is also welcome to go that. So both movement, horizontal, is allowed, including offline, those who have not been in the education but have done a lot of experiential work. They can come also into the formal and get a degree.
So as we move into the final part of our conversation, sir, it is said that by 2035, NAP's vision year has been defined, that 2035 is the vision year. What kind of learning environments do you imagine across India? One, and do you really hope to see a shift in the cultural DNA of our institutions?
Yeah. The whole attempt of NAP and then achieving that in 2035 will lead to our Viksit Bharat by 2047, number one, next 10, 12 years. But most importantly, the entire learning environment in the schools and colleges should be joyful, no stress. All these suicides which have happened in IIT after having qualified through JEE, such an advanced, difficult exam. Why are you running away from life? I think these are challenges which have to be addressed through this. So there is a lot of good environment through stories, through games, through animation, simulation, that we keep learning, create inquisitiveness. also build happiness, bring culture of our ancient civilizational values, which I referred earlier, Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu, and what we call Vasudhaiva Kutumbam in the truest sense. If we do that, not only India will be at its top, one of the largest and best economy of the world, but we will take care of the whole planet and give true shiksha to the whole world. That is what we call jnana to entire world. That is our capability. We have missed the bus. We have to reinvent ourselves to do all of that. And that is possible through this movement.
My final two-part question to you, sir, is what is that one mindset challenge beyond policy you think we still need to overcome? And what is it that we must unlearn as a nation to make space for this dream?
What we need to unlearn is the Machiavellian system of producing clerks. We have to come out of that. We were an entrepreneurial nation. Every village was having lots of entrepreneurs, small scale. कोई लोहार था, कोई चमार था, कोई लकड़ी का काम करता था. We were all self-sufficient. So that leading to not just village level Atmanirbharta, which Mahatma Gandhi ji also said through his Nayi Talim. But we have, through this education policy, every place must become self-sufficient, independent. Wherever necessary, we should have interaction and get from each other. And that whole nation as Atmanirbharta is very, very important. And all of this is certainly feasible, possible, if we follow these footsteps which we have identified. These are all like step one ladder, second step of the ladder, third step of the ladder. And by 2035, what you said, NEP fully implemented. Next 10, 12 years. 12 years means one tapa. And in that last one tapa, we will reach that place.
So thank you so much for your time. What is your personal hope through this journey?
What hope? I am very positive, very hopeful. And whatever I have been commenting, I am 100% confident we will reach there.
Thank you so much for your time, sir.
This wasn't just a conversation. It was a call to reimagine, to redesign, and to reinvest in the future of learning. You've been listening to Between Us. Make every conversation count. If this episode made you reflect, imagine, share it with someone who's shaping their future or future of others. Because as we've heard today, reform doesn't begin in a policy paper. It begins with a question. And sometimes that question begins between us. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay curious.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Between Us podcast. The producer is Santosh Kumar and the associate producer is Samyak Kamble. The Between Us podcast uploads episodes weekly, and we'll see you next time.